it happened to us in the youth work sector. And back in the 80s, Youth Work Ireland, with the National Youth Federation as it was, there was very little statutory funding came down to us. And as Professor Morris Devlin said, we were less of an organisation than we were a movement. We've lost a lot of our teeth in the last number of years because we're so reliant. I mean, my own organisation, you know, about 70% of our funding comes from government. So because you have that unequal relationship, you do end up being silenced at things. So it's something that maybe the LGBT community and the LGBT sectors need to be aware of, that when we are, you know, lobbying for added resources, with that sometimes comes a little bit of risk of losing your voice. So I just wanted to make that comment. Thank you.
Thank you. Sorry, Siobhan. I just want to add a question for Anna. In relation to when you look at Ireland and challenging neoliberalism, it can be very difficult because there's not a very comprehensive discussion of it, certainly in the political sphere, and it's kind of avoided, and it's kind of, sometimes it's not very visible. So the neoliberal policies that are taking place are legitimised for all different sorts of reasons. And particularly elected representatives who do talk about neoliberalism and responding to right-wing capitalist policy.
Two things really. One is there's one way of organising that hasn't really been mentioned, surprisingly, even though I think some of our funding came from the trade unions. And I think that's because we're so used to leaderships being unaccountable and it all happening on a scale that we don't have input into. But I think if we're talking about actually having the ability to fight back, you know, that's power to withdraw something that they need, then we need to think about unions, or possibly not in the existing top-heavy form. And the other one is, people speaking today have often confused human rights with citizenship rights and the rights of citizens. And I just wanted to remind everyone that not everyone in our communities is a citizen and they still have human rights.
I enjoyed today because we don't get many opportunities to be in spaces like this and to elevate the discourse, because we don't get to talk about the challenges in the LGBT community. I think for far too long we've operated in silos and we're being very insular. Even sometimes, is there really an LGBT community? You know, so, and we need to build alliances amongst ourselves, and that's in all that equality kind of framework, the solidarity and the respect and recognition that we accord each other. But also, we need to open a dialogue with other organisations who should have an LGBT remit. But we also have to challenge ourselves in how we work and how we operate in this current economic age of austerity. I think solidarity is so important. And I think the piece that Neil talked about how new ways of operating, there was a time where we were actually co-opted into the social partnership structures, that community workers and community development became very much service providers and service delivery positions of the state. And I think now is a challenge and an opportunity. Hayley said earlier about communities of resistance and resilient communities, and those, we can be isolated in urban and rural areas, and we can be isolated because of our age or because of our gender identity or our sexual orientation. I think now is the time today. I would be very disappointed, because I've been at so many seminars before and so many conferences. I would be very disappointed if this doesn't lead somewhere. I'd hate it if it's just a report that ends on a shelf with a summary of recommendations at the end. So I would propose, I think something like a commission is needed, that we all come together and that we all learn from each other. I mean, I have a particular position in that I'm Secretary of Labour LGBT, and that's been going for 10 years, and that was mainly struggling to get a voice, the voice of lesbians and gay men and bisexuals and transgender, heard within the Labour Party. But that's our journey, and today I've learned of all the journeys of everybody here today. But I think the solidarity and the challenge and what we need to do to go forward, I think we need to reflect on what Neil and what the afternoon the statutory organisations, but look at all the social and political capital that is in the room today and all the connections that we have. So there's more of us when we unite and we're together. There's such potential and skills and knowledge in the room today. I would hate that nothing became of today, if you know what I mean. Okay.
That I know, going back a few years, maybe not as far as back as Kieran, if he's still here. Sorry, Kieran. But I kind of remember a time when there wasn't statutory funding, when there wasn't philanthropy out there, and somehow we came together as a community and we made things happen, and it was done on a shoestring, and we begged, borrowed and stole, and we got the help and advice from people who are professionals, who were willing to give their time, and there are people out there that if we do approach them, would be willing to give help to organisations, excuse me, as long as we ask them for that help. And it's just that we be positive about the fact that, yeah, things are shit, there's no money, and we have a right to expect that we should be getting some of that money when other people are as well, but at the same time we can still do it. We did it before, we did it when the country was on its knees before, and we can do it again.
I consider myself to be a very lucky and fortunate man in that I have a beautiful transgender woman as my partner. We have a lot of challenges here, and obviously in the 30 seconds I have to speak, it's impossible to address a lot of things. But from our experiences, the things I would share with you, that 5% number that we heard earlier that Michael was presenting on asylum, that is a very big issue for concern. There's an awful lot going on behind the scenes politically that, there has to be a lot of sensitivity in the way that is addressed, but at the same time, that number, honestly, I can tell you, should be significantly higher. There's an awful lot of people that do try to come to this country that are denied access to this country. That being said, we're now seeing surveys. Everyone hear me okay?
Yeah. Yep.
Okay. That being said, we're now seeing studies where we're seeing the population of Ireland being in the double digits of non-Irish born. Those that don't even identify with an Irish heritage. We're in the double digits now here. There's obviously some transition going on here in Ireland. We're not just talking those from other EU states, but also from all around the world are now coming to Ireland. There is a reason. There's wonderful things that go on here. As much work as may need to be done in certain areas, there are a lot of very amazing things going on in this country. One of the very reasons I'm here is because of those things. With that being said, we really have to look forward in regards to all of these things. We see a lot of issues. I personally have witnessed, a lot of bias, discrimination in the towards the transgender community. And it is very difficult all the way across the LGBT spectrum to say, things are being addressed properly, not just in legislation and policy, but in the day-to-day attitudes of the state sometimes, in the day-to-day attitudes of the people. That being said, believer in, if we get out there, people will open up themselves. It may take time, it may be hard, we may have experienced rejection from time to time. But the main focus here is this asylum, these refugees that are coming here. We talk about exclusion, we talk about the economic aspect of all of this. With that being considered, when someone is leaving a country because they are being subject to hatred, to discrimination, to a point where they have to leave their family and their homeland, they typically come to another country with no money. They are lucky to come up with a flight, to come declare asylum, to seek asylum. When those people are forced to be subjected to an extensive process with no support of any kind, either from the international community or from the very state they're seeking the protection from, we are excluding them. We're excluding people that are effectively, and this is a dear subject for me, that are effectively on their hands and knees asking for our help. And when any state, no matter who they are in the world, denies an opportunity and a real thorough, exhaustive review to where every opportunity is afforded to provide that individual protection, we're doing them a disservice. We are excluding the very people who are part of our community, who want to be with us and want to have, at a minimum, the same freedoms and liberties that we have. You know, we cry out for more, and of course we should. That is part of our plight as human beings. We want to be equal, and we want to see that equality always the essence of it to improve. But at the same time, those that are seeking the basic things that we sometimes even take for granted, I think, you know, my experience in dealing with the refugee process, my experience in dealing with, you know, with those folks that are coming here, you know, even going through a different process, is that, you know, there's more that could be done for them. So, and I'm sorry, you know, rambling on here, but it's a subject that's really near and dear to me, and it's difficult when I see 5%. When we talk about, you know, money, you know, those that are seeking asylum in this country don't have any of these extra options. They don't even understand this. They're coming to the gate, they're coming to the door and saying, please help me. You know, and shame on us if we don't.